It is Saturday evening in East Lansing, Michigan. Michigan State with a 42-14 victory over Youngstown State. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Come on in. Let's talk about today's game. If you were out at Spartan Stadium today, let me know what you think about it. If you weren't there and you watched it on TV, let me know what you thought about it also. Great day for Michigan State fans. Great day for Michigan State football. Let me make sure. Thought I had a problem there. Anyway, hey, great day for Michigan State football. Getting off to a 2-0 start on the young season, and today more than ever it felt like football season, more so than last year in some regards because you had Michigan State fans in the stadium. The Spartan marching band was great today. Fans were great. Student section was outstanding today. Great weather for football. High 70s, something like that. I saw some students that just drove back from the stadium not too long ago, and dusk has settled over East Lansing, Michigan, but just before that happened, I saw some students passing in front of me, and they all had sunburns. So, they were out there selling it today, getting after it for the green and white. It was good to see the fans out there. Good to see a lot of SpartanMaggers. Saw some subscribers out there. Good to see you guys. Kona Dyke and I were over there for SpartanMag.com covering it. Ricardo Cooney also have a little bit of coverage right now over at SpartanMag.com, rehashing analysis a little bit. Mel Tucker's postgame press conference available over at SpartanMag.com also. And at the Underground Bunker message board, continuation of discussion and comments and observations about today's game going on there and all week, as it always does. But here, as part of this show, we will be talking a little bit about some particulars, maybe taking some phone calls if any of you guys want to do that. Get back into what we did a little bit last year. Could not do it after the Northwestern game because it was just too late. We'll have to wait and see with the Miami game, with a road game. If we do this post-game after the Miami game next week, might have to do it from a hotel room. I'm up for that if you guys are up for that. And we look forward to talking some Michigan State sports with you guys. As far as today goes, Michigan State, Peyton Thorne, solid. Did a good job with the deep ball. Kona Dyke and I talked about that in the VCast after the game, which I think is already posted. It'll be posted real soon. That was one of the questions with Thorne. Missed a couple deep shots in the game at Northwestern last week. So he answered some of those questions. I'm not saying they were critics. It's just when they had such a fine game against Northwestern, you look at things that could have been done a little bit better. And he said that about himself. There were some plays that were left on the field. He won't say that about today, although he is a perfectionist. All quarterbacks are. He'll think about some plays he could have made. But he was 15 out of 21. One or two of those incompletions, there was nobody available. Threw it away. But the deep pass, flea flicker, really captured the moment a little bit, really created some excitement at Spartan Stadium. Really a great moment. I think everybody's going to remember that. The first play of the Mel Tucker era with fans at the stadium, flea flicker, touchdown, 2 weeks in a row. First play of the game, touchdown, 75 yards. Then the 85-yarder later in the game, I think that made it 21-0. He led Jaden Reed, his old high school teammate, perfectly on a post. Looking at it, I'm not sure he should have thrown that ball because it was kind of into double coverage. It was cover 3. Middle of the field was closed with a single deep safety, and they had some underneath coverage beneath him, so basically a bracket, but he threw it to the green, threw him open. Had to be perfect with that one, and he was perfect. From there, Jaden Reed just had too much speed, ran away from those guys. Great play there. And the little screen pass to Jordan Simmons, excellent design. Second week in a row where they had a screen pass for a touchdown in the red zone. Really good design and timing on that. I think they faked to the tailback. Also had an end around coming, so they faked an end around also. So really froze some of the pursuit over the top when they came back to the screen. A lot of times you watch teams try to execute a screen pass, and it's kind of telegraphed a little bit. It's kind of obvious what they were doing. When Michigan State's run screen passes last year and then this year for those 2 touchdowns, it was well disguised. And they found their guy, and it was Eli Collins. It's Elijah Collins with a touchdown there, not Jordan Simmons. I misspoke there a little bit. Elijah Collins injured on that play on the sideline with a boot on his ankle, as many of you saw. Mel Tucker didn't have an update about Elijah Collins. Mel Tucker's not really in the habit of providing injury updates after a game or anytime during the week. So we won't know about him until we get into next week's game at Miami. It's going to be hot down there. Right now, Miami's playing Appalachian State. I'm recording it. I'll watch it later. But App State, I think, is up 14-12 right now. So Miami, some of the lumps they sustained against the Crimson Tide, maybe those are lingering a little bit. A lot of talent there. A lot of talent. If you're a Michigan State fan, you want Miami to win that game. Go into that game 1-1. So Michigan State has a chance to really get a sense of accomplishment if they're able to beat the Hurricanes. You don't want Miami losing to Appalachian State. Unless you want Miami to be weaker than maybe we thought they were a month and a half ago. In which case, it increases the chances to go 3-0. I understand that. Also, hey, Jaden Reed today, 4 catches, 181 yards. 2 touchdowns, 85-yarder. Explosive. Did a good job with that. Jordan Simmons, over 100 yards today. I don't know how many times he did that last year. I might want to look that up. But 121 yards on 16 carries, 7.5 per carry. Kenneth Walker, over 8 yards a carry. Kenneth Walker, 57 yards, only 7 carries. Kenneth Walker, they were able to save him a little bit today. And Mel Tucker says it's important to keep those running backs fresh. And Kenneth Walker, limited duty today, 7 carries, looked pretty good. And I was looking at some highlights today, or just before we came on the air here. And the thing about Kenneth Walker and one of the touchdowns today, it was the touchdown, 7-yard touchdown run. Hold on a second. Hold that thought. Can't remember what that made the score. I can look it up here real quick. That made the score 35-7 in the third quarter. I didn't think about it at the time, but when I looked at the highlight again, I'm like, that touchdown run, that 7-yarder, might be more impressive than any of his touchdowns or any of his runs all last week. Yeah, last week against Northwestern, had some explosive runs. Of course, the 75-yarder, top-end speed, surprising people with that. The cutting ability, the vision. On this play, the vision, once again, the cutting ability. And doing it on grass. Cutting on grass is not always as easy as it is on synthetic turf. Well, the new synthetic turf, it's similar, I hear. Not that I've done it. But go back and watch that and look at Kenneth Walker and the cut he makes on that play. Cutting back for the touchdown, vision, and then the cutback, the plant and acceleration is just plain uncommon. Plant, cut. It's like he's battling some laws of physics or gravity or something like that. It's just uncommon. You don't see guys make cuts like that outside of the NFL. Great cut. Not a good cut. A great cutback. And with burst. Then gets to the goal line. 2 or 3 people are on him. Moves the pile over the goal line. Touchdown. So the vision, the cut with the burst. It's one thing to have a cut, but a cut and a burst and then power at the end. Tremendous run. In stature and in frame, he doesn't look like Lorenzo White. But Lorenzo White had great vision and cutting ability, and he would put 2 or 3 different cuts. But Lorenzo White had strength at the end of a run to move the pile like that across the goal line or a line of gain. That was like Lorenzo White type of strength, type of run on that one. So Kenneth Walker, not much duty, but 8 yards a carry. It didn't take him long to impress. He had like a 25-yarder for the second touchdown drive. And Michigan State pulled the guard and the tackle on that one. It's a counter. Don Strait, bringing it strong. Thank you, Don Strait. Personal sponsorship in the tip jar. Appreciate Don Strait. His DeWitt Panthers with the victory over East Lansing last night, Friday night. But that touchdown, let's see if Don's got a question. No questions from Don right now. Don, if you got a question, go ahead, throw it on there, and I'll answer that one. Actually, let's go to the phone lines.
Call from
Kelly Spartan.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press...
All right, let's go out to Detroit. Frequent caller, longtime listener, valued contributor, Callie Spartan. He always has a lot of thoughts What's going on, man? Happy Saturday. Happy Spartan Saturday to you.
Happy Spartan Saturday to you too, Comp. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling more positive about this team, man. It's incremental improvement. What did Mark used to say? We get 3% better every day.
2%.
2% better. Well, man.
Mel Tucker calls it the aggregation of marginal gains. The aggregation of marginal gains. I've used that on my players.
Well, I'm telling you, whatever they did for offense, it's amazing. They're worth every penny, man. So far, I mean, I haven't seen anything like. I used to look at our offense and be like, our defense is going to handle it. We're just going to score a couple of touchdowns, get a couple of field goals, and go home. Now it's like the feeling I used to have of, are we going to be able to get these 10 yards to get a first down? It's, man, when's the next big play? I mean, when that touchdown to Naylor in the second half where Peyton Thorne just made it look like it was easy, I'm like, our offense doesn't do this. Yeah. Like, it's been a long time, but it was remarkable. And the fact that, like, I've seen some scuttlebutt about, like, what's our defense doing? I'm like, if you look at the time of possession, we're not holding the ball that long. So, I mean, of course the defense is going to be out there longer, but if you look at the yards per attempt, it's doing pretty well. So, I mean, all things considered, I'm optimistic. I'm not a 7 out of 10 for optimism right now.
7 out of 10 for this season, or for the program in general, or the universe,
this
or
season,
what?
So far,
yeah.
This season so far, and after watching Ohio State look mortal, and looking at App State give it to Miami a little bit, I'm telling you, man, I look at the rest of the schedule, and I'm not gonna. You know what? I'm not gonna jinx it, but you know where my head's at right now, man. It's no one's looking scary anymore.
You know, Michigan State, Mel Tucker said that this week. They expect to try to win every game. That doesn't mean going 12-0 necessarily. It's just every time they take the field on a given weekend, they expect they're going to win. That's the way all coaches and all athletes are. He says, by the same token, there is not a team on the schedule that cannot defeat us, as he said. So it's a mosh pit of some parity going on as it looks right now. Maryland, Rutgers, we'll see what they become. We'll see what Indiana becomes. We'll see what Michigan becomes. Purdue, Nebraska. There's a lot of parity there, but Michigan State, they don't have to look up to any of those teams right now. So it's difficult, though, to just reel off win after win after win when those are all perceived as swing games or 50-50 games. But the point you're trying to get at here is a little bit of some of those might be 60-40 games or 70-30 games in favor of Michigan State. And I don't disagree with you. I mean, we learn as we go. We've seen 2 games out of Michigan State. Some of these other teams are still playing right now. But the explosiveness is more than I anticipated. I thought Michigan State had a chance to do some good things this year. We talked about it all offseason. We all expected the offense to be better because at all 11 positions they were better. Better running backs than last year. Better quarterback than last year. All 3 receivers are back and bigger and better and a year older and improved. Offensive line, they've had their troubles over the years, but they're all back. They're healthier now. They're better. Tight end, they're better. The same guys, a little bit better. Still a problem there, but you have Hayward there. All 11 positions on offense are better than a year ago. It's not saying much because they weren't good on offense last year. We just weren't sure where that would all land. Like I said all week, I didn't know Kenneth Walker was going to be that good. And Michigan State had the luxury today of sitting him and getting some good run out of Jordan Simmons.
I mean, the way I look at it is like this. Remember a couple of years back, when Cassius was here, and offense would get stagnant in basketball, and we just needed something to happen, and Cassius just like, all right, 3-pointer here, under the basket, layup here, blah blah blah, and then we're back up 10 points or whatever. That's kind of how I see this offense right now. Like, it gets stagnant, get the ball to Kenneth Walker. It gets stagnant on the ground, throw it to Reed. Like, it just at no point do I feel as so far. I'm saying it so far. At no point did I never not feel that we couldn't have scored on every possession.
Yeah.
And we stopped. And it had nothing to do with the other team. The other team, I don't think so far I've seen anyone's throwing at us that made me not believe we couldn't have scored on every possession. And intrinsically, I 100% believe we stopped ourselves. Like, the fact that the first week we almost had 600 total yards of offense, and then this week it's like over 500 again, that tells me that we have the ability to score at will. We have the speed to score at will. You saw Eaglin. We got the power to score at will. Like, honestly, we could have had 50 points today if Mel didn't put Russo in and just kept Peyton Thorne in the rhythm he was in. There's nothing you couldn't have told me that we couldn't have got over 50 points. Nothing. And we had the ability to. That's a scary thing. And the fact that Mel, I shouldn't say Mel, the team showed to the rest of the players, the teams we're going to play this year, that we can run it from our end zone and run it 75 yards for a touchdown, or we can throw it for 75 yards on a touchdown at any given time. That first play, when Kenneth Walker got to the line of scrimmage, everyone collapsed on him. He just tossed it back. No one was back there. That's fear. Mm-hmm. That's a survival instinct. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to sound like Predator, from the movie with the aliens and everything. But once you show someone something mm-hmm. that you can absolutely do, and they have nothing to stop it, people get afraid. And that's what you saw from Youngstown at parts of this game. Because oh, shoot, we got this on tape that Kenneth Walker can do this. Now everyone else got this on tape that Jaden Reed can also do it. Mm-hmm. And there's more than just them. And every running back we sent out there looked like they can run 10 yards a carry. And it wasn't it was just I haven't seen anything like this in years. So as long as people stay healthy and do what they're to maintain what they're doing and is doing their job, I don't see I don't see how we couldn't score 30 points a game this year.
Well, they'll
no
be,
problem.
They'll be going against some good defenses, and it'll be more difficult later with guys that can just cover up better. We'll have to wait and see what Indiana becomes on defense. Ohio State, they've got talent, but what I've thought about their defensive coordinator situation dating back to last year. Michigan, maybe they've made some improvements. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Washington tonight. But it's interesting to see a quarterback.
Before you start saying all that, close your eyes and think for a second. On any given down, tell me you think that it will be impossible for us to get down the field if all of our people stay healthy on anybody.
It's always
from what you've seen so far.
You're right. I mean, they've got threats. They've got threats. The tailback's a threat. His backup's a threat. The quarterback goes through it pretty well, delivers it pretty well, intermediately or accurately or deep. Now we've seen. He's got a cool head on his shoulders, and the wide receivers are explosive. They've been explosive for a couple years. They're even more explosive now. I really believe the strength and conditioning and nutrition has improved some of these guys. Jordan Simmons was not this good last year. I know he's a year older, and you improve from freshman year, sophomore year. He's more explosive, and he's hitting the hole harder now. Part of that is because there's competition there. But just seeing him in the post-game press conference today, I remember what he looked like last year, and he's more cut now, and he's got bigger arms now. That's competition. It's a strength, conditioning, nutrition, and competition, and it's bringing the best out of Jordan Simmons, and that all adds up to an explosive bunch. And the play calling, I mean, they stretch the field. They go deep. A lot of times they'll go deep the first play of a drive. It's not always the first play of the game, but they'll go deep first play of the drive. They got people that can take the top off the defense, as the cliche goes. And like you're saying, that keeps defenses honest. It keeps them on their heels a little bit. And they're not quite a pick-your-poison offense. They've played Northwestern and Youngstown State. We'll see what happens when they come a little bit bigger and better. But through 8 quarters of football, they have presented pick-your-poison football with a couple of opponents. And they've executed, and today Thorne was, 15 out of 21. Did a real nice job and sat the fourth quarter. It's encouraging. It's encouraging. Offensive line took a step back in some ways today. Jared Horst with those consecutive holding penalties stalled a drive. And then you had a false start from A.J. Arcuri, kind of stalled a drive. That was not ideal. There was a tackle for loss that stalled a drive. There weren't many drives that stalled, but there was a tackle for loss. Michigan State's first drive of the second half is an outside zone. Running back lost 2 yards. I think Duplain, he was the guy chasing the pile a little bit. Looked like he didn't get a piece of somebody. I'll have to go back and look at that play. Anyway, sets up, 3rd and 12 or so, and they had to throw underneath, completed it, but had to punt. But I'm nitpicking here. That's a couple of penalties on the offensive line, 3 penalties on the offensive line, and then that one, a tackle for loss, stalled a drive. So, Luke Campbell came in and replaced Horst after Horst had those 2 holding penalties. So there's competition going on there as well. Offensive line, they're okay, not as good as last week. Defense did not play well down in and down out. The defensive line, I expected Michigan State's defensive line to really dominate the day up front. I didn't know Beasley was not going to be out there. I think they missed him a little bit and missed Drew Jordan a little bit. Youngstown State has a pretty good offense, pretty good running back, and the pre-snap read, I thought that Michigan State would keep him and the the quarterback bottled up. I thought that they would have no room, would not be able to do it on their own. Instead, it's not like they broke off a bunch of big runs, but they moved the chains. I mean, they had like 20 first downs. Youngstown had 20 first downs, and they actually ran more plays than Michigan State did. Moved the chains. That young quarterback, Dimitri Crenshaw, did a good job moving the chains with that zone read, well timed. In the pre-snap read, I said that was problematic. The zone read that he runs did it pretty well last week. I just wasn't sure they wanted to present that over and over against Michigan State and expose him to that. But they did, and they did it well timed. They executed it well, and they moved the chains as part of that. I heard Scotty Hazelton interviewed in the post-game radio show, and he said anytime you got a quarterback that runs a zone read there, it can be kind of tough. And it was tough for Michigan State to keep them completely out of the end zone and get a shutout today.
Well, I think part of that has to do with, again, the type of offense we have now. Our defense was so good, primarily because our offense would just hold the ball for so long. When you give people less chances to do anything, of course, the numbers are going to be lower. And like I was pointing out, and I think you pointed out this before too, the yards per attempt was still pretty good.
Yeah.
So if they find
it should be good because Youngstown State's defense, was actually a little bit better today than I expected. But against Incarnate Word, I mean, there's great respect to them, great respect to those players, to Youngstown State football and all the tradition. But on defense, they're in the back seven. They're just kind of small and slow, and they make mistakes too. Made mistakes in Incarnate Word. Not as many today, but so don't get, you can't take away from Michigan State. They can't help that. Michigan State is still doing what they're doing and putting up those big numbers per carry, like you mentioned.
Well, I think once we figure out
7.2 yards per rush.
Once they get into a good rhythm of how long they want to do time possession, I think the defense is going to be helped by that because we get out to these fast starts, we just launch and get these quick scores, and then they, if they can just control the time of possession to give the defense more time to rest. Because if we're scoring it the first 10 seconds and then the defense comes back out there, it's almost like a turnover. Because even though we did score, they still didn't get any rest.
That's where you need that depth, and they're trying to work some depth in there. They missed Jalen Hunt today. He was injured against Northwestern. He was in uniform today. He was on the participation list, but I'm not sure that was accurate. I did not see him out there. I'll have to watch it again. Maybe some of you that have a better seat than I do. I'm way up in the press box. It's hard for me to see numbers sometimes. I'm watching all 22. I might not see exactly which defensive tackle is in the game. Pretty sure he didn't play. So that's a little concerning. That's a guy they expected to be a dominant interior defensive lineman for them this year. They don't have him. Deshaun Mallory's doing okay. He lost a lot of weight. He's quicker, but he's not like quick enough to be super disruptive, and he's not big enough to really be a tank in there. He's just kind of okay. Slade's been battling some things. He's kind of okay. So D-line today did what they could. Piotrowski got the start. He was a defensive end for Drew Beasley, who's out for undisclosed reasons. Beasley's out for undisclosed reasons. Tank Brown, undisclosed reasons. And Drew Jordan, 3 defensive ends out. Then you've got Hamp Fay didn't dress from Texas. Cam Allen didn't dress from Texas. Couple of freshmen, couple of friends there. So it makes me say about what's going on in the world today. I'm just wondering about that. I don't mean to speculate. They always say broadcasters don't be speculating, but it's a talk show. It's what we're going to do. We're going to speculate. Worried about that a little bit. But D-line, Piotrowski got the start, had a sack and a tackle for loss, did some good things. He did what he could do. Fletcher got in there. I thought he looked maybe a little slower than he used to. I'm not sure what's going on there. But I expected Michigan State to bottle up the run and make things miserable for Youngstown and just choke slam them all day. Didn't happen that way. Youngstown's offensive line, which is not very good, gave as good as they got, possessed the ball. So Michigan State's defensive front, not so great today.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, there's always going to be something to improve upon. But I will say, the way the defensive line was today, I think our defensive backs were like the defensive line was last week. I think they look pretty good, especially we got INT. People looked like they were more locked down. It wasn't any big blown pass plays. So, I mean, I know, again, like you said, it was Youngstown, but people were at their assignments.
Sure.
People didn't look lost necessarily. So, maybe next week, both of the front seven and the back seven, or whatever, however you want to say it, will be on the same page. And, maybe we can beat Miami. But
Wow,
I'll let you go, Comp. I'll listen to the show. I just want to get my call in.
All right, that sounds great. Appreciate it, Kelly Spartan. There he goes. Yeah, if they beat Miami, I mean, then it'll be full on. Get your pom poms out.
Silly season then.
It'd be amazing, and that's what college football is. Thanks a lot, Kelly. Appreciate you calling in. And that's what college football is today. I mean, college football, home football games, they're a festival is what they are. You've been to them. You know what it's like. It's a festival of Americana and then some. And it's been away from us for a long time, but 6 times a year, sometimes 7 times a year, sometimes 8 times a year, they've got a little festival over there at Spartan Stadium in East Lansing, Michigan. And it's a good time to see your old friends come back, listen to some music, watch the marching band, watch the great American game of the manly art of tackle football, I like to call it. Michigan State did some good tackling today. A little bit better than last week. Opposition was, in some ways, not as good. That little running back's pretty good, though, for Youngstown State. Now, as far as other things that took place in this game, impressed with, Donovan Eaglin getting out there, getting some carries. He's a guy that I'd been hearing was doing really well in spring practice last year prior to the spring scrimmage. Then saw him in the spring scrimmage, number 32 redshirt freshman out of Texas. And, I broke some tackles, got some yards after contact, and he was fired up about it. And when he went to the sideline, Mel Tucker was giving him a fresca, all excited for Eaglin. Other people were excited for Eaglin, his first carries as a Spartan. And good moment for him. And you see he's got some ability. Mel Tucker was really lively on the sideline also in a lot of ways. Somebody made the point on the message board over at SpartanMag.com, Underground Bunker message board, that they liked the way that Tucker was staying on on the Michigan State players while they were leading the game big, late. Reminded me of Tom Izzo in that way. Reminded the poster over at SpartanMag.com of Tom Izzo that way. You watch Izzo coach at the end of a game when Michigan State's up by 20, 25, 30 points. He's coaching hard those last 3 or 4 minutes, right up until, Team Iron Mountain goes in. And even those guys he coaches hard because he's trying to run things for people late in the game. Izzo works every minute of game regardless of the score. And if the score gets away, he even wants even more focus at that time. Tucker was doing some of that today, calling for more focus. And you saw a little bit more of Tucker's bedside manner today. Saw him coach in a blowout victory and how he handles it. And the intensity is there. I thought it was great, interesting, being at the stadium, when the team is coming out of the tunnel. Today they did a little head fake to Thunderstruck. They were playing Thunderstruck for a few seconds, then cut it off, played something else, then went to another song, had a little pregnant pause of radio silence there for a couple of seconds to try to build some anticipation. Then they played a song. I don't know if it was Swag Surf or whatever that song is, which I think could be pretty good if that's what it was. I didn't recognize it as that. I don't know what it was. In my opinion, it didn't go over that great. I think people have to get used to it and get into it or whatever, but I thought that, my sensibility is a little bit out of date, so maybe I missed it. Let me know if you thought that the pregame intro was good. But anyway, when all that was going on, at some point the camera down in the tunnel shows Mel Tucker approaching the tunnel entrance, and he's with a representative of the local fire department and police department, first responders, as a salute to them 20 years after 9/11, showing Tucker, crowd, boom. There was a boom. There was a pop at that time. In the pro wrestling business, they call it a pop. And it popped. And they were excited to see Mel Tucker, his face. First time that he's been at that stadium. And he didn't see the scoreboard, so he didn't know that's what they were responding to, but they were responding to him. The first responders also, you see them on the side. I'm not sure that's the first thing that the crowd saw. But the crowd is behind Mel Tucker. The crowd popped. And that was pretty exciting. Not sure about the music, how that played out. But you guys can tell me if you've got an opinion on that. But the atmosphere was just great to be out there and check it out. Jalen Naylor, real nice job in that touchdown. Gave Michigan State, what was that? 16-yard touchdown pass. That closed out the scoring, 42-14. Corner blitz, Naylor, side adjust. I don't know what Naylor's route was supposed to be, but as soon as that corner blitzed, they had a side adjust fade. Naylor didn't come out for interviews. We don't choose who comes out for interviews. They just had like 5 or 6. And this year for interviews, it's not like we can gather around and go around the room and interview. It's all at the podium, social distancing, unfortunately, understandably, but it's harder to get in some of those questions like I used to get in the past. You know, those little detailed questions to get a little more insight on what went on during the game. That's going to be a challenge for the rest of the season, but I understand it. But Naylor on that one, pretty sure that's an option route. As soon as the corner blitzes, it's an automatic in the red zone. That's what I'm guessing. Hand went up. You don't do this. You don't do that like just breaking off the line of scrimmage as part of a regular route. Side adjust for the quarterback too. He made his initial read over here. Then he saw the corner blitz and looked over, and sure enough, Naylor was here. Led him, made the catch, finished it. Earlier in the game, Jalen Naylor failed to finish a catch in the end zone. Michigan State ended up scoring on that drive later, but that might have been the best pass of the day for Peyton Thorne. Jalen Naylor, another one really accurate beyond 20 yards downfield. Thorne didn't get a touchdown on that one, didn't get a completion on that one. For his first or second best, number 1, number 2, best pass of the day for him. So Naylor's got to put those away. So Thorne today, 15 out of 21. That one incompletion, not on him. So you can add that 16 of 21. Although later in that drive, completed a couple that would not have happened if that one were complete. But by the same token, 15 completions. 3 of those were the little pop, sweep. That's a free completion for any quarterback. And those were working all day to the tune of 10 yards, 12 yards, 15 yards. So that pads the stats a little bit also. But get back to what Kelly Spartan was saying. Michigan State is really putting pressure on defenses horizontally and vertically. Vertically with flea flicker and deep post against man-to-man. Can go deep at any time, any down and distance. And then you got the pop pass threat all the time. Then they bring a receiver in motion. You got to honor that guy, and they'll fake to him and go screen the other way. So then they're putting that running game in there, and it's nothing but trouble. So, all right, let's get to a couple other points I want to make. But first, let's go over here to the comment section. We're not going to go for 2 hours like we do in the middle of the week. I have some work to do, some more articles I want to watch. I know a lot of you guys are probably watching some of the other games. But we wanted to get back in the habit of the post-game call-in show. For those of you that want to get involved, Brad Fishenko checking in from Austin, Texas. He's batting first. He's out there keeping Austin weird for us. Appreciate Brad. We got a lot of callers. Got a lot of maggers in the great city of Austin, Texas. Always appreciate him. From Roswell, Georgia, Eric M. checking in. Tim D. saying, go green. Donovan Thomas. Entrance to the game was a little weird. Okay, so I was just getting to that. And that's what I thought also. Donovan Thomas was at the game. I didn't recognize the song. I'm not the hippest guy anymore. But I was a long time ago. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But I didn't really. I was looking to check it out a little bit, and it just kind of missed the mark. I'm not even sure what it was. Somebody can explain it to me a little bit if you want to. Steve Smith 313 said, great time today. The place was packed. Well, the place wasn't quite packed. It was packed in the lower section and certainly in the student section. Students are all excited. And I remember Paul Shager talking about this a couple of weeks ago. He's one of the athletic directors at Michigan State for marketing and so forth. And, the student section had sold out at like 10,000. I think that's a sellout for students. And their research had it that you had an incoming freshman class and a sophomore class that had never been part of a Michigan State football Saturday. And in some ways, that might be a marketing challenge. They've not done it. Do they still have the incentive to be part of that? Do they have? Does the tradition reach them? Well, found out this year that it did. Freshmen and sophomores, good job with the student section. They were live and they were into it, and the players fed off it. The players noticed it. Tucker noticed it. It's the first time these coaches, new staff, the second year, first time they've had a home game. They were moved by it. They thought it was pretty awesome. And the players, they were jacked up too. So good job, fans. Gordy from Albany is here. Braden Griffin, Greenville, South Carolina is here. Tim D from Toronto. He's a Bills fan, obviously. A lot of Bills fans in Toronto. A lot of Bills fans. That's a big part of that. That's a big part of the Bills fan base. Buffalo, not a real big city, but Toronto. Toronto is what? 5th biggest metro area in North America? He's a Spartan fan. I saw a guy pulling out on Okemos Road out toward East Lansing, or is it Marsh Road, with a bunch of Michigan State stickers and a Buffalo Bills sticker also. So the Bills Spartan thing, it's a thing, I guess. Kinda 1005 says, hey, Cop, Holler seems like a great guy with tremendous support. What I haven't seen anyone mention is his creativity and boldness, which Mark Hollis had in spades. What are my thoughts on that? Yeah, creativity and boldness. He's not going to be another Mark Hollis in that area. That was Mark Hollis's strength, thinking outside of the box, coming up with the Cold War, the basketball carrier game. I don't know if Alan Haller is a big idea guy, P.T. Barnum style. And those things helped Michigan State, and Mark Hollis had a lot to do with the advent of what has turned out to be the Champions Classic. Michigan State, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky. Hollis had a lot to do with that. Michigan State really benefits from that association with ESPN as part of it. But so Hollis was big into that. Those things are good. That's not a real deep pool of things. Hollis was thinking about what his next trick might be, but you kind of run out after a while. What really keeps the department going is that meat and potatoes every day, blocking and tackling, execution. Haller's more of that type of guy. I mean, he'll have some ideas. He's more of maybe a little bit more of a micro idea guy. He wants to know what can be done to help tailgating and to get people excited about being at the games and to make people happy about coming back to football games. And which bleeds over to better attendance and just better overall interactive relationships with fans. Haller's big in that. He's big in trying to find ways to help the football coach. Hollis did too, but I think Haller's more of a corner man for a football coach. Like Muhammad Ali had Angelo Dundee in his corner. Well, Alan Haller's in the corner there, and that's going to help a football coach. I mean, Hollis was there for D'Antonio also, but Haller might be just a little more boots on the ground in that area. So he's not going to be Mark Hollis. So the big ideas and those things, like you said, in terms of his creativity and his boldness, it might not be like that. It'll be a little different. That's what I think right now. Both ways can be effective. You have to be who you are, but the attention to detail and the commitment's going to be strong. And Alan Haller, he shows up, and when you're around him, he's got his ear to the ground. He listens. He listens to me. Even before he took this job, I'd talk to him, and I'd see him at games beforehand. We'd talk about football, and I'd be talking about, Indiana's defensive back, whatever. And he'd sit there, and he was really listening. And I was talking, and I'd stop myself and say, what am I? I'm telling this guy played in the NFL. I'm not going to tell this guy anything he doesn't already know. But he was listening, and, maybe he didn't have time to watch all the Indiana stuff, so he was, I don't know. I took that as a big compliment that he was listening to what I had to say. But he's a guy. You know what I mean? He's approachable. He listens. He listens to fans, listens to coaches, Olympic coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, all of it. So that's a strength. I've seen some athletic directors at Michigan State that just show up and wear the suit or the dress and just hang out and just, dignitary. I mean, Alan Haller's going to wear the suit and, wave and shake hands and all that, but he's hands-on in it. A lot of times those ADs, they show up and it's like they have to make it look like they're in charge of something. Football. I'm not saying they're bad people, just that they, sometimes they didn't know what they were supposed to do. Sometimes the football coach did not want to talk to them at all. So it's better this way for Michigan State. Tim D says Iowa is looking good. I talked about that in the message board a couple weeks ago when I made that post at the Underground Bunker message board. The part that I thought was dangerous about Iowa, first of all, is the way they finished last season with, 6 straight wins? And the 2 losses by 3 points and 3 points earlier in the year. One of their losses, they lost to Northwestern, and they completely abandoned the run. Iowa abandoned the run. When have they ever abandoned the run? And Northwestern didn't have the greatest run defense. And Iowa abandoned the run with a very shaky quarterback and blew that game last year. Otherwise, they'd have been 8-1, and they would have been in the Big Ten championship game. And Iowa, 2 late season games were canceled. The bowl game against Missouri would have been the Music City Bowl. They would have destroyed Missouri. And they didn't play Michigan late in the season. They would have destroyed Michigan. Iowa was good last year. All right, they graduated some people. But they were good last year, finished strong. But I've said this on a few shows and on the message board. They return all 4 starters in the secondary and the middle linebacker. They're always a very good team in terms of same pageness in the back 7 with the 2-deep zone, whether it be the old cover 2 they used to play or cover 4. They'll do both of it. And they operate as a one-brain, one-cell animal back there. Man, it's an amoeba defense like Jerry Tarkanian and UNLV. And they present small windows, and they close those windows quickly. And that's why they're always among the leaders in interceptions. And that's why I wasn't surprised they had 2 pick sixes against Indiana. It's Iowa football, and it still works, especially on defense. They've adjusted to the new, the tempo and the spread and all that stuff. I was wondering if Iowa could survive in this day and age. They've survived, adapted, and now they're thriving again. And when they've got veterans like that in that system, better not get behind by 10 points because it's a root canal. Rob South says, what's up, fellas? Rob South. The entrance was cut down because of the 9/11 tribute. Okay. All right, that makes sense. Maybe it'll be better next time. Next time, 2 weeks against the Huskers. Huskers are 2-1 now. I think Michigan State catches Nebraska at a soft spot in their schedule, kind of. Meaning that Nebraska, I think, has a tough game before and after. Let me look it up here real quick. I think I remember checking that out from earlier in the year. Schedule right now. Yeah, they got Oklahoma. They were trying to get out of that game, remember? So Nebraska's got Oklahoma next week, and Scott Frost, that came out, was trying to get out of that game, didn't want to play Oklahoma, which is, I don't know if he'll be asked that a little bit. It's going to be on his mind, the mind of his players. The players will have to answer to that. Oklahoma's not so strong this year. Had a lot of trouble against Tulane last week. By the way, I heard more people last week referring to Tulane as Tulane. Tulane. Like a two-lane highway? Tulane. Has Tulane been out of the conversation nationally that long that people have grown up having not heard how to pronounce that university's name? It's Tulane. It's not Tulane. Any of you guys notice that? Anyway. Hey, I mispronounce words all the time. I'm not exactly William Shakespeare out here. But, come on, it's Tulane. Anyway, Oklahoma didn't look very good against Tulane. I think Oklahoma blew someone out today. But Oklahoma, Nebraska, renewal of that one. That's going to be fun. But it's going to be taxing emotionally for the Huskers. Huskers are 2-1 now. I think they're 2-1. They were beating Buffalo 14-3 when we started this stuff today. Yeah, 28-3. They won. So Nebraska's going to be happy for themselves. They've given up 7 and 3 points the last 2 weeks. And Buffalo's been a pretty good MAC team in recent years. But Nebraska's playing Oklahoma. Michigan State gets them after Oklahoma. And then Nebraska plays Northwestern after that. Northwestern and Nebraska has become a little bit of a pretty good little pillow fight rivalry between those two. They've had some pull your hair out type of games. So I'm not going to say it's a complete trap. It's not like you're looking past Michigan State to play Northwestern. But the part that I remembered is they get the Huskers the week after Nebraska plays Oklahoma. So it's at Oklahoma, and then Nebraska's coming to Michigan State. So it's consecutive road games, which is not always the easiest thing in the world. And you're playing them after the renewal of one of the great rivalries of the previous century against Oklahoma. So that's a good time for Michigan State to catch them. On the reverse, the Huskers are getting the Spartans the week after Michigan State plays at Miami. How that's going to turn out still remains to be seen. How good Miami's going to be remains to be seen. But it's going to be hot down there, and Michigan State will drop some fluid down there. So Michigan State might not be 100%. I know it's early in the season, your mid-season form, but I guess Nebraska has a tough task. Michigan State has a tough task. I guess that equals out. So forget I mentioned anything. Let's go back here to the comments. Fashenko says Mallory's been a disappointment. Yeah, talking about Deshaun Mallory, defensive tackle. I understand what you're saying about that, and I tried to caution people about that late in the season. When I talked to Mallory, we talked to Mallory, and Mallory mentioned that the strength coaches were telling him to put 10 pounds back on. He went from 345 or 355 down to 285. And he was quick, but not ultra quick. He's just kind of quick. Mallory said that the strength coaches and football coaches were telling him to put 10 pounds back on. So what did that tell you? That told you they were not completely happy. They didn't think 285 was his ideal fighting weight. So when I heard that, went to the open practice, saw him a little bit. He wasn't, he's okay. Didn't really notice him much. Saw a little bit of thud scrimmaging the week before that in practice. It was okay. Didn't really notice him much. And he mentioned that. And I came to the message board. I might have mentioned it during a VCast. Hold your horses on Mallory. Don't expect to put him in the Hall of Fame just yet. It's a great story that he lost all that weight, but like I said, the fact that they wanted him to rebuild 10 more pounds tells you that they didn't, that he wasn't setting the house on fire. So you've seen him be a non-starter this year. So he's a reserve, comes in, he's okay, but he's not a difference maker out there. He is what he is. So if we're disappointed in him, it's our fault if we're thinking too highly of him. He lost a lot of weight. That didn't mean he was going to come out and move like Usain Bolt or Carl Lewis or something. But yeah, he's been kind of quiet. Canna 1005 says optimism is high, but I am interested to see our athletes match up to Miami. A good measuring stick, no question about that. Can't argue with that. Steve Smith says 47 plays hard. That's Jeff Pietrowski getting the start at the defensive end today, sophomore. And he had a sack today, did a real good job, the shoulder dip, and then turned the corner and had that ankle flexibility. A really sports car that turned to get home on that one. Also got home when Xavier Henderson had his sack. Steve Smith 313 says our linebackers are not prime defenders. Can't disagree with that. Halliday did not notice Halliday as much today. I'll have to go back over the film to see what that looks like. Quavaris Crouch got turned inside out in that 30-yard little swing pass that was a key play in Youngstown State's first touchdown drive. Went for 30 yards, and Michigan State was in man-to-man. And Halliday, I think he was out there with Halliday. It was either Halliday or Klein. The other linebacker blitzed, and Crouch began to blitz, and then the running back ran by him, and then he stopped and went chasing after the running back again, which makes me think that was what you call a cross-key blitz. It's man-to-man. He's got the running back. If the running back stays into pass protect, then you blitz. In other words, cross-key. When you key that he's staying in, then you cross the line and blitz. I think he was on a cross-key blitz there. Other linebacker was going. He started to come on a blitz. Then he stopped, and his guy got behind him. It's man-to-man, so everybody ran off the ball. 30 yards, that's a bust. I'm pretty sure that's what happened on that play. Now, it's not like we're always needing to find blame. We're not like trying to be accusatory here. We're just pointing out areas that need to tighten up to improve if you want to go on the road and beat Miami and keep this thing going. Those things, that's the quality control that needs to improve. And, hey, he's new to the program. He's only been around here for a couple of months. He's only been practicing for a month. It's pretty understandable in some ways. Now, linebacker play, I looked at that. There was a question over here at the Underground Bunker message board when I posted today about that we're going to have this post-game talk show. Got a question. Let's see if I can find it. I think Bannon posted it. What's his name? Jay Bannon. He says, how do you feel about stopping the run as the season goes along? I'll be watching the Michigan game, the Texas-Arkansas game. Stopping the run the rest of the game, rest of the season. Michigan State stopped the run pretty well against Northwestern. Today, Youngstown rushed for 189 yards, lost 22 yards, net of 167. When you're giving up 189 yards rushing to Youngstown, not so great. 3.7 yards per carry. 189 in gains. Not very good. D-line didn't control things. You mentioned the linebackers. Steve Smith did. So Michigan State did more two-gapping today than they did last week. I didn't watch every single play in the trenches to see if Michigan State was one-gapping or two-gapping. I'm mostly watching the secondary and then watch the replay to see what the offense did. I'll go back and watch the other guys in the field when I get a chance, maybe later tonight. But More two-gapping this week than last week, and two-gapping up front means the linebackers are doing more reading and reacting, and there's a knack that comes with that. Rather than a linebacker just having one gap and shooting it, he's got to read and play off what he sees up in front. And the 26-yard touchdown run by their second-string running back, whatever his name was, Michigan State was two-gapping on that play. And Dowell, as the nickelback, was essentially the play side linebacker. He was up at the linebacker level, playing at linebacker depth, because Youngstown had two tight ends on the field for that one and a running back. So it's 12 personnel. He's more in the box playing like a linebacker. So it's two tight ends were in. They were both on the left side, which was Dowell's right side. So that adds gaps over there. So now you've got a D gap and an E gap, essentially. So you have two tight ends over there. And Dowell is kind of, as it plays out, is kind of responsible for that E gap. If you're one gapping, then he just shoots it and it gets to the shoulder of that guy and hosts it. But when you're two gapping, D linemen are, two gapping and playing a gap, one gap to this side, one gap to the other side. It might be 25% to one side, 75% to the other side. And if you do it and do it well and you control, it can create the illusion or the effective illusion of playing with 12 men on the field, because everyone's got a gap and a half and it kind of all spills over. And it can help you account for the quarterback as a runner. So that's why they do it, but it's harder to do it. And it's harder to do both. Some teams are all two gapping all the time. You don't see much of that anymore. Some real good 30 teams, like 10 years ago when Notre Dame was the national title, they were really good with Pruitt and some of those guys. Alabama did a lot of it. Georgia did a lot of it. Iowa has done two gapping over the years a lot, not as much last year. But the good ones can do it really well. Michigan State's trying to get there. They did more of it this weekend. So on the 26-yarder, the two gapping, Dowell is kind of keeping an eye on that E gap and kind of still reading it when the wide receiver comes and gets a piece of him. Wide receiver also got a piece. Did he get a piece of him, or did the tight end hook him? I'd have to look at it again. And Gross is one of the two deep safeties. It's two deep, man underneath, and it's press. And I mentioned this in the VCast. I look at the coverage pretty much every play, and I'm almost positive that was the first time all day and the only time all day Michigan State played two deep man under press. So I'm not saying it's a bad defense. Michigan State changes it up, and that can make things difficult on a quarterback. They ran the ball on this one. So two deep, it's man-to-man. So it's man-to-man press. So when the running back gets out a little bit, those corners are not playing the run as well. They're man-to-man on their guy. It's harder to play the run when you're playing man-to-man. So the corner over there, Gervin, he's kind of out of the play because it's man-to-man. That corner comes in and blocks somebody. I think he blocked Dowell. Or did he get a piece of Gross? So essentially that wide receiver's taking out two guys. The guy that's covering him and the guy that he gets a little crack on. So Gross comes in and tries to really aggressively scrape and like inside out that play. It's kind of a do or die, all or nothing. And he shoots it aggressively, doesn't get home. So now you got the other safety way over there. He's playing the run because the run initially goes toward the other safety and then he cuts it back this way. So when the run comes this way, Henderson comes up to play it. Now when it cuts that way, he can't quite get there to stop a 26-yard run. Corner can't support it. Linebacker is kind of reading it, and because it's two gapping, and he gets cracked and taken out. And then the other safety, Gross, goes for a hero big play rather than playing it more conservatively to keep it contained. I'm not saying anyone's wrong. It's a different style of defense. Michigan State's going to go a little more risk-reward on defense a little bit. You could watch D'Antonio's teams play for years and years, and when they were good, they would rarely give up a run of more than 20 yards. It never got out because their base defense was quarters zone, and that corner would have played it differently. He wouldn't have been man-to-man in that situation. He'd have been, man match and keeping an eye on it. He would have played that run and leveraged it and contained it a little better, and that safety would not have gone, trapeze without a net as aggressively. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to play it at all. There's different ways you can play it. I'm just saying those type of runs didn't get out in the old days as much. By the same token, Michigan State would give up more dink and dunk yardage to the slot because the slot was open. So you're robbing Paul to pay Peter and picking your poison and all those P words to a point. That one got out. So it's a different way of playing defense. It's more aggressive. Are you seeing the positives of the aggressive in terms of forcing turnovers and tackles for losses? Not as much. Are you seeing the negatives of aggressiveness? You did on that play. So the two gapping, I'm not saying it's the wrong way to play. It's just there's a knack to it. And Dowell, I'm not saying he hesitated. He was just reading it and got blocked. Gross, aggressive, took himself out. So you're asking how run defense is going to be. If it stays like that, I don't know. I'll learn as you do in terms of this style of defense and how it goes along. Now, I've covered Izzo for 26 years or whatever, and I can see on a given day that if they do something wrong and I see the players have the capability to do it, I can come back to one of these things and say, I promise you that's being addressed. That's going to improve. Because you've seen it year after year after year. Just like with Iowa, when they've got that many veterans in the defensive backfield coming back, you can guarantee that it's going to be good because you've seen them teach it year after year after year. D'Antonio, Narduzzi, and Tressel, if there were run-fit problems, you just knew with their system, because you knew their system, that if someone got some ground success on them and it was not a matter of physical limitations, or maybe it was physical limitations, they just happened to be playing Ohio State, I could come back here and say, don't worry, next week when they play Minnesota, they're going to be in their gap, they'll take on blocks, all the other safeties, they'll get people on the ground. They might give up the plays in the slot, the little dink and dunk, but you just knew that this was going to happen. I'm still learning with how they're teaching with this staff and implementing things, and we'll learn as we go, and we'll get an idea of what some of the mode of operations are. But basically, there's going to be against some teams that are a little bit more pass-oriented. I think Michigan State will be better equipped against some of those teams than the way they used to do it. And the way Michigan State, it's really interesting the way they disguise coverages. They'll have safeties up at the line of scrimmage showing zero, like there's no safeties, and we're blitzing, which they did last week. That's on film. They did that in the red zone, got a sack, took them off the field, missed a field goal, big play. But they'll show that, and then at the snap, get back into a two deep. So they're showing zero, and they'll get back to two deep. So, I mean, they're kind of all over the map on that. They will change the look, which can be very effective, especially after they become more comfortable with one another and learn the system better, not just 12 months in, but like I said, 36 months in, 48 months in. Let's go here to some more questions. We'll wrap it up. We're not going to go all night tonight. Steve Smith says, trust me, they're looking for a portal in the defensive end this year. I don't doubt that. Brandon Griffin says Michigan's defense looks decent this year. I've not looked at them closely yet. Kevin Nicholson says Michigan State beats Northwestern and Ohio State beats Minnesota. Big Ten West opponents remaining, Purdue and Nebraska. Would you agree that Michigan State and Ohio State have easiest remaining path to the Big Ten championship game? Michigan State? I would think, out of the East, I don't know. I'm not even thinking path to the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State does, I guess. Yeah, because the crossovers are not that strong. Theoretically, yeah, I guess. And Ohio State, yeah, I guess. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Michigan State, Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers, that whole round robin. That's going to be interesting. We'll see if Michigan, how they do things. Because they're trying to, I don't even know what that, let me look up. All right, I talked about the 26-yarder. Let's get some more questions here. Timo Slice says, any injuries today that we should be concerned about heading into Coral Gables next week? It was reported that backup quarterback Anthony Russo was seen leaving the stadium with his foot in an immobilizer. Must have gotten, taken a ding on the very last play of the game. So that's part of it. Jalen Hunt, we'll have to wait and see what's going on with him. They need him. They need a disruption factor there, defensive tackle. Eli Collins, foot in an immobilizer after that touchdown he had. He didn't play against Northwestern. You'd like to have some depth there, but Nick Samak had that injury, and I talked about this in the VCast. Samak had an injury, but he went back into the game, and that's one of the under-the-radar, more important developments of the game. in my opinion. Because if Samac had been injured, then you've got Matt Allen and nobody else at center. And Matt Allen's health has been iffy over the years. You want to have both centers available, so it was good news that Samac went back on there. David Crump said swag surfing will be good by the third game. All right, I can respect that. Third biggest, Tim D says, talking about Toronto and North America. Third biggest metropolitan area in North America. What, behind New York City and Mexico City? Los Angeles, then Toronto. So Toronto's bigger than one of those. Kevin Nicholson says, phrased differently, what Big Ten East team has easiest remaining path to the championship game? Fact, all other Big Ten East teams except Indiana have to play Iowa or Wisconsin. Okay, I get it now. All other Big Ten teams have to play Iowa or Wisconsin. I haven't looked that far ahead. Michigan State, I really dig your ambition and your optimism. I've not looked into that. So you're asking me if I would agree? I'll take your word for it on that. Big Will says, Kenneth Walker's impressive. Big Will says, I'm concerned about the pass rush. Yeah, pass rush today again against a team that's not very good at pass protection, either at offensive tackle or with running back help in pass protection. Not very good. And Michigan State really didn't register much of a pass rush, especially with the front four. Xavier Henderson had a sack as part of a blitz, and Piotrowski had one nice pass rush move for a sack. But for the most part, yeah, it's hard to be really good in this day and age without a real good pass rush. Brandon Griffin says, can the pass rush improve? I'm not so confident. That's like I said in the VCast last week, Shalik Calhoun is not walking through that door. Panashuk was more productive today, but he kind of is what he is at this point. He's a guy that had some pass rush productivity early in his career. Last year, slowed by COVID. This year, just kind of a guy, solid. A lot of respect for him, but not a guy that's going to be a difference maker in the pass rush right now. So you're asking if it can improve, not in terms of a 4-man pass rush. You can work to improve your schemes and your pressures, but the more you start bringing 4 and 5 or 5 and 6-man pressures, the more you're leaving yourself open to get beat in the back end. Live by the blitz, die by the blitz. Don't want to do that. You want to get home with 4. They're unable to do that, and anything short of free agency is not going to help that a whole lot, I don't think. Tim D says, no, unless Bubba Smith comes back. Exactly. Rob South says, at Dave Crump, I agree, but third game, they will have it down. Okay? By third game, they'll have it down. Jason Killip says, Cobbs, good to have Jason Killip in the house. Did a great job Friday night down in Detroit, watching Detroit King against Detroit. Cass Tech showdown game in the Motor City. Killip spoke with Dante Moore a little bit, and also Jonathan Slack, a couple of real good juniors. Dante Moore, one of the best junior quarterbacks in the country. Jonathan Slack, good offensive lineman, kind of a top 15 in-state guy. Brief comments with them over at SpartanMag.com. Check that out. Paul S. says, Texas getting taken to the woodshed. Miami up 2 on Appalachian State in the third. Yeah, Texas getting beat by Arkansas. That's a bad look for them, huh? Yeah. Canada 1005 says, Alan Haller's going to lead by serving, which can be powerful. Keith Tunstall says the U looks very beatable. Steve Smith 313 says Russo was not a surefire quarterback too. May need to unwrap Kim. Interesting thought. If Russo is indeed compromised with whatever injury he had as he left the stadium today, Kim could be next man up. And he's got some talent. Well, I'd rather have Russo, though. If something hit the fan down in Miami, I'd rather have Russo going into that situation, a guy that's started 50 games, than Noah Kim. Noah Kim's a good player. He's got potential. Very intriguing guy. But I'd rather have Russo for now. Keith Tunstall says Ohio State looks beatable. Life without Justin Fields is hard. I agree. We're going to wrap this up. We've got a couple more comments. What was the other one? So Michigan State suffered a blocked punt in the first quarter. Michigan State was leading 14-0. Youngstown State blocked a punt last week against Incarnate Word. And I mentioned in the pre-snap read that they blocked a punt. And I thought that was one of the good things about this game for Michigan State is that Michigan State saw that Michigan State saw that they blocked a punt. It gave them something to work on. It gave the special teams room something to focus on, and they still gave one up. Still gave it up. And they gave up a blocked punt to Incarnate Word up the middle, and then Michigan State gave one on an up the middle rusher also. Yeah, Doors fan 91 saying Russo was in a boot leaving the stadium in crutches. Yeah, I saw some talk about that on Twitter. Graham Couch reported that. Graham's a very responsible reporter, so he saw it firsthand. So, disappointing for that young man. You just as a human being, you gotta hope that he's healthy. And if you're a Michigan State fan, you want him available next week. So anyway, when Michigan State gave up that blocked punt, Connor Hayward was one of the two personal protectors, and it looked like he may have been the guy that had the best chance to block the guy that came in that blocked it. The guy that blocked the punt came in from the linebacker level. He wasn't up on the line like coming off the edge or up the middle. He was like in the middle and kind of came in late. And Michigan State was kind of protecting to the left and doing a little bit of a half rugby punt to the right. So a lot of the blocking attention was that way, including Hayward, and this guy from the linebacker level is coming like from the other way across the grain. So I don't know a lot about special teams schemes, but they're bringing that guy from the linebacker level, and they kind of, it's like a counter the way they ran that punt block scheme. I think it might have been a real good scheme. So Hayward is looking at another guy as the most imminent danger and went after him. But you got to think about it real quick. It's a quick identification that he has to do. He should have went after the other guy, obviously, but he was influenced the other way. All in all, I think it was pretty good X's and O's for that punt block. Point is, Michigan State worked on punt protection all week. After seeing that, they gave them something to do. They work on punt protection every week, but they had something to really focus on this week, and they failed. So that's not so good. Talked about the 30-yarder. Talked about the 26-yard touchdown. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to go back and watch a little bit more, and got some more writing to do. We're going to wrap it up and going for about an hour and 10 so far tonight. Yeah, about an hour and 10. Appreciate everybody watching. Appreciate everybody. Make sure to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Go to SpartanMag.com. Become a SpartanMag.com subscriber. We will see you over there. We'll have a SpartanMag Live coming up in a couple of days. I'll keep you posted on that when the time comes. Anyway, enjoy your Saturday. Happy Spartan Saturday for the Michigan State fans out there. We'll see you next time. SpartanMag.com.